Joseph, peace be upon him, was the son of the prophet Jacob, peace be upon him, and he came from a blessed family of prophets. From childhood he stood out for his beauty, behavior, and the purity of his heart. Allah had chosen him for a great role in life, but his trials would begin early. One night, Joseph, peace be upon him, saw an unusual and very meaningful dream. He saw 11 stars, the sun, and the moon prostrating to him. Surprised and filled with curiosity, he went to his father, Jacob, peace be upon him, and told him the dream. Jacob, peace be upon him, as a prophet and a man of wisdom, immediately understood that this dream had a great meaning and that it was a sign from Allah for the future of his son. He said, "O my son, do not tell your brothers about your dream, lest they plan against you a scheme. Indeed, Satan is a clear enemy to man." Jusuf 12:5. Jacob, peace be upon him, knew that Joseph's brothers already felt jealousy towards him because their father loved him very much due to his good nature and sincerity. Joseph's brothers began to feel great envy. They said among themselves, "Joseph and his brother are more beloved to our father than us, while we are a strong group." This jealousy grew until it turned into an evil plan. They decided to remove Joseph from their lives so that they would gain their father's full love. At first, some of them proposed to kill him, but one of them suggested that they throw him into a deep well so that some caravan might take him away, and he would disappear without a trace. They agreed on this plan. One day, they asked their father to allow Joseph to go out with them to play. Jacob, peace be upon him, felt fear and concern. He said that he feared a wolf might eat him while they would not take care of him. But they assured him, saying they would protect him well. They took Joseph and brought him far away, and when they reached the planned place, they threw him into the well. He found himself alone, in darkness, without any human help. But at that moment, Allah revealed to him that one day he would inform them about this deed while they would not realize it. This was a divine comfort for him, which gave him strength and hope. Meanwhile, the brothers returned to their father crying and bringing a shirt stained with false blood. They said that a wolf had eaten Joseph, but Jacob, peace be upon him, with his wisdom understood that this was a deception. He said, "No, you yourselves have made up something. For me, there is only beautiful patience." Thus began the long and trial-filled story of Joseph, peace be upon him, a story that would show how Allah raises his servant from the depths of the well to the heights of honor and power. After the brothers threw Joseph, peace be upon him, into the well, he remained alone in the darkness, without help and without any human way out. Nevertheless, Allah was with him and protected him. After some time, a caravan of travelers passed near that place. They stopped to take water and sent a man to draw water from the well. When he lowered the bucket, he was surprised when he saw a beautiful boy clinging to it. He called out with joy, "Oh, good news! This is a boy." Jusuf 12:19. They took Joseph, peace be upon him, out of the well and took him with them, considering him as merchandise. Without knowing his true value, they sold him for a low price in Egypt. This was another turning point in his life, from the darkness of the well to an unknown place, far from his family. In Egypt, he was bought by an important man, known as the Aziz of Egypt. He said to his wife, "Treat him well. Perhaps he will bring us benefit, or we may take him as a son." Jusuf 12:21. Allah gave him wisdom and knowledge from a young age. He grew up with high morals and with extraordinary beauty, which would become a trial for him and for others. When he reached maturity, Allah gave him judgment and knowledge, as mentioned in the Quran, Jusufit 12:22. But his trial had not ended. The wife of the Aziz, impressed by his beauty and character, began to feel desire for him. One day she closed the doors and tried to seduce him, saying, "Come." But Joseph, peace be upon him, responded immediately, "I seek refuge in Allah. Indeed, He, my master, has treated me well. Indeed, the wrongdoers do not succeed." Jusufit 12:23. He refused firmly, choosing obedience to Allah over any desire. She tried to force him and followed him, while he tried to move toward the door. At that moment, she tore his shirt from behind. Just then, her husband appeared at the door. To protect herself, she accused Joseph, peace be upon him, saying that he had wanted to do evil. But Allah brought the truth to light. A witness from her family suggested a test. If the shirt was torn from the front, then she was right. But if it was torn from the back, then Joseph, peace be upon him, was innocent. When they saw that the shirt was torn from behind, it became clear that he was innocent. Jusufit 12:26-27. However, even though the truth came out, the matter did not end there. The women of the city began to spread talk about this event. To justify herself, the wife of the Aziz invited them to a gathering and gave them fruit to cut. When Joseph, peace be upon him, appeared, they were so amazed by his beauty that they cut their hands without feeling it and said, "This is not a man, this is a noble angel." Jusufit 12:31. Even after this, the woman continued insistently, but Joseph, peace be upon him, made a sincere supplication. "O my Lord, prison is more beloved to me than that to which they invite me." Jusufit 12:33. He chose to sacrifice his freedom to preserve purity and faith. This part of the story shows how Allah protects His servant when he remains sincere, and that the greatest trials often come in unexpected forms. After all that happened in the house of the Aziz, although the innocence of Joseph, peace be upon him, became clear, it was decided that he should be imprisoned for a time. This was not because of his fault, but to avoid further spreading of the scandal and to protect the reputation of the powerful family. Thus, from a life in the palace, he moved to the darkness of the prison, another heavy trial in his life. But even in prison, Joseph, peace be upon him, did not lose his faith and his high character. He continued to be just, patient, and devoted to Allah. His good behavior caused him to gain the respect of the other prisoners. 2 young men who were in prison with him saw in him a special person and turned to him for help. One of them told him that he had seen in a dream as if he was pressing grapes to make wine, while the other said that he had seen as if he was carrying bread on his head and the birds were eating from it. They said, "Tell us the interpretation of these dreams, for indeed we see you as one of the good people." Jusufit 12:36. Before giving them the answer, Joseph, peace be upon him, used this opportunity to call them to the true faith. He spoke to them about the oneness of Allah and about the error of worshiping many gods. He told them that worship belongs only to Allah and that this is the straight path. This shows that even in difficult conditions, he did not leave his mission. Then he explained their dreams. One of them would be released and would serve the king by giving him wine, while the other would be executed and the birds would eat from his head. As he interpreted, so it happened. Before one of them was released, Joseph, peace be upon him, asked him to mention him to the king, so that perhaps it would be a cause for his release. But Satan caused him to forget this, and Joseph, peace be upon him, remained in prison for several more years. Jusufit 12:42. After some time, the king saw a strange dream. 7 fat cows were being eaten by 7 thin cows, and 7 green ears of grain and 7 dry ones. He asked the scholars and his people to explain it, but they did not know and considered it a confused dream. At that moment, the man who had been in prison with Joseph, peace be upon him, remembered him and said that he knew someone who could explain it. He went to Joseph, peace be upon him, and told him the dream. Joseph, peace be upon him, interpreted it clearly. There would come 7 years of abundance, which should be used to store food, and then 7 years of severe drought. Not only did he interpret the dream, but he also gave a wise plan for managing the crisis. This showed not only his knowledge, but also his wisdom and leadership ability. This part of the story shows that even in the darkest places like prison, Allah can raise his servant and make him a means for great good. Joseph, peace be upon him, never lost faith, and every trial became a step toward his rise. After the king heard the correct interpretation of the dream from Joseph, peace be upon him, and his wise plan for facing the years of drought, he was amazed. He ordered that Joseph, peace be upon him, be released immediately from prison and be brought before him. But Joseph, peace be upon him, did not accept to come out immediately without clarified completely the issue of the previous accusation. He asked that the case of the women who had cut their hands be investigated so that his innocence would become clear to everyone. When they were questioned, the women admitted the truth and said, Allah forbid, we know no evil of him. Even the wife of the Aziz admitted her fault and said, Now the truth has become clear. I sought to seduce him, and indeed he is of the truthful ones. Jusufit 12:51. Thus, Allah completely cleared Joseph's peace be upon him name, showing his justice. After this, Joseph, peace be upon him, came out of prison with honor and was presented to the king. Impressed by his wisdom and character, the king said, Today you are of high standing and trusted among us. Jusufit 12:54. Then Joseph, peace be upon him, asked for an important position, saying, Place me over the storehouses of the land, for indeed I am a knowledgeable and trustworthy guardian. Jusufit 12:55. Thus he became responsible for the wealth and supplies of Egypt. He managed the years of abundance with wisdom, storing grain and preparing the land for the years of drought that would come. When the difficult years arrived, Egypt was prepared, while surrounding lands were struck by famine. Among those who came seeking food were the brothers of Joseph, peace be upon him. They traveled from their land to Egypt, without knowing that the person before them was exactly their brother, whom they had thrown into the well. Joseph, peace be upon him, recognized them immediately, but they did not recognize him. He received them generously and gave them what they requested, but he also planned a way to bring his full brother, Benjamin, to him. He told them that next time they must bring their younger brother with them to receive supplies. When they returned to their father, Jacob, peace be upon him, they told him about this condition. At first, he hesitated because he feared as before with Joseph, peace be upon him. But after their insistence and promise that they would protect him, He agreed, advising them to enter the city through different gates and to rely upon Allah. When they returned to Egypt with Benjamin, Joseph, peace be upon him, took him aside and revealed his identity to him, telling him not to be distressed. Then he arranged a plan to keep him close. He placed the king's cup in Benjamin's bag and then announced that it had been stolen. When they were searched, the cup was found in Benjamin's belongings, and according to their law, he had to remain there. The brothers were shocked and tried to persuade him to release him, but they were unsuccessful. They returned to their father with another heavy news. This part of the story shows how Allah raised Joseph, peace be upon him, from prison to a high position, and how the reunion with his family began in a wise and planned way. After the detention of Benjamin in Egypt, the brothers of Joseph, peace be upon him, returned to their father with broken hearts and with another heavy news. They told him that Benjamin had been kept there and that they had not been able to prevent it. Jacob, peace be upon him, who had already endured the loss of Joseph for many years, was deeply grieved once again. He said, "No, you yourselves have contrived this matter, so patience is most fitting for me." Yusuf 12:83. His pain was so great that his eyes became white from sorrow, but he did not lose hope in Allah. He continued to say, "I only complain of my grief and sorrow to Allah, and I know from Allah that which you do not know." Yusuf 12:86. He had complete trust that one day relief would come. He said to his sons, "Go and search for Joseph and his brother, and do not despair of Allah's mercy." Yusuf 12:87. This shows his unwavering faith, even after many years of trial. The brothers returned again to Egypt, tired and weakened by the famine. They approached Joseph, peace be upon him, humbly, asking for help and admitting their difficult situation. At that moment, the climax of the story came. Joseph, peace be upon him, decided to reveal himself to them. He said, "Do you know what you did to Joseph and his brother when you were ignorant?" Yusuf 12:89. They were astonished and said, "Are you indeed Joseph?" He replied, "I am Joseph, and this is my brother. Allah has indeed been gracious to us." Yusuf 12:90. Instead of blaming or taking revenge, he showed great forgiveness. He said, "No blame will there be upon you today. May Allah forgive you, and He is the most merciful of those who show mercy." Yusuf 12:92. This was one of the most beautiful moments of forgiveness and nobility. Then he gave them his shirt and told them to place it over their father's face. When the caravan approached, Jacob, peace be upon him, said he was sensing the smell of Joseph. When the shirt was placed over his face, his sight immediately returned. Yusuf 12:93-96. This was a miracle and a sign of Allah's mercy. Then the whole family set out for Egypt. When they met, Joseph, peace be upon him, welcomed them with honor and raised his parents upon the throne. Then the brothers and parents bowed in respect, and thus the dream he had seen in childhood was fulfilled. He said, "O my father, this is the interpretation of my previous dream. My Lord has made it come true." Yusuf 12:100. He acknowledged that everything that had happened was part of Allah's plan. In the end, Joseph, peace be upon him, prayed to Allah, "My Lord, you have given me authority and taught me the interpretation of dreams, Creator of the heavens and the earth. You are my protector in this world and the hereafter. Cause me to die as a Muslim and join me with the righteous." Yusuf 12:101. This story ends with a powerful message. Patience, faith, and reliance upon Allah always lead to a good outcome. Joseph, peace be upon him, moved from the well to the palace, from injustice to justice, and from separation to reunion, always remaining faithful to Allah.